From is going to be considered one of the best TV shows to come out of 2022. When I first heard about this show, I was skeptical because going off of the name and poster, it seemed more like another crime drama, and nothing will top Hannibal.
What am I about to put in my mouth?
Rabbit.
He should have hopped faster.
Yes, he should have.
So I asked around if there was a supernatural aspect of the show, and my friend responded saying, yes, there's a lot of supernatural stuff in this show. So I decided to binge watch the show this week, and after 15 minutes into the first episode, I was hooked. I'll go ahead and dive into my minor spoiler review to get y'all a little taste of what's to come, and so later, you'll want to gorge yourself on this show. The show starts off with showing us a rural town, and as the sun is about to set, the sheriff goes around ringing a bell and everyone takes the hint and gets indoors. Nighttime comes and we see a little girl and her mom wait up for the dad who sadly got blackout drunk and wasn't going to make it that night. They lock the door and the mom fixes this weird talisman hung near the front door. The daughter goes up to her room and hears someone whispering outside her window to let her in.
Megan, what are you doing?
Maybe I can come in.
Oh, that's terrible.
You seem kind of psyched.
No, I'm bummed.
I won't say more because it is that moment that got me hooked into the show. And it wasn't a cheap-ass flash forward like in X or Cursed. It was also the first 15 minutes. We then get introduced to the Matthews family. We have the parents Jim and Tabitha and the kids Julie and Ethan. They're on a family vacation in a big RV and come across a giant tree in the road. It's too big to move, and before the family can contemplate the situation, a murder of crows appears. They double back and pass a gas station before arriving in a little rural town where everyone awkwardly ignores them except Sheriff Boyd Stevens. They ask him how to get back to the highway, to which he responds with, "You just keep going up that road that you were following and you'll see it." Puzzled, the family follows the road and they keep going and see the gas station that they saw earlier. They keep following the same road and pass through the town again. And then they keep going to look for any turnoffs or any other roads. And then they see the same gas station again. So the story focuses on the Matthews family and we get introduced to the crazy town and experience it along with them. But what I really like about this show is not only do we feel like newcomers with the Matthews family, it's also that the town people don't know that much more than the Matthews. So we're in a constant progression of discovery in the show, from new people figuring things out to more experienced people being brave and creative in order to find out other things in this bizarre world that almost seems unescapable. Another positive aspect to make note is the depth. The creators really imagined any kind of question someone could have about this place and came up with an answer. Are all the answers logical? No. But there are characters that are smart enough and ambitious enough to ask the questions, and when someone can't give them a good enough answer, they go looking for another one. So, the premise is very interesting. The characters are likable and diverse in their personalities. The monsters, oh yeah, this show's got monsters. Is it a perfect show? No, of course not. I would be way too presumptuous to think a show is a 10 out of 10 based off of the first season. But I am hopeful. If there is anything that I say that convinces anyone to give this show a chance and watch the first step, even the first 15 minutes of the first step, then I've done my job. I'm confident that if this kind of show is up your alley, all you would need to do is give it 15 minutes. And that's it for my minimal spoiler review. From is a 9 out of 10 and it is going to be ranked one of the best TV shows this year. I can almost guarantee it. You can find this show on Amazon Prime, Epix, YouTube TV, and Philo. What the hell is Philo? Anyways, now I'm going to get into my spoiler review. I thought episode 1 was a great introduction to the show. We see the monsters, we see what they do to people when they get their hands on them. And I have a question, and hopefully someone will be able to give a strong answer. Do these monsters eat the people, or do they just tear them to pieces? Obviously their organs get ripped out, but in the first ep, Sarah kills one of the new arrivals, and on the next ep, some voices in her head say to make it look like the monsters did it. But he isn't nearly as torn up as the people usually are, and the monsters come into their mini hospital and killed 2 other people, and it didn't seem like they touched the other guy. So I'm pretty sure these things are malicious in nature, so they may feed off of people's fear and pain and don't need regular food. But I could be wrong. One more thing I liked about the first ep is that the town does have a system of how best to vet new people, so you can tell that they've done this for a while, but the idea of using a talisman in the RV being a risk also tells us that there is a lot of new things that we will learn while we follow the more seasoned characters. Episode 2 gives us more of the town people don't know a lot, but they have survived, and they're mostly just focused on that. Also like how they don't actually show us the talk that they give people, because honestly the talk probably sucks and doesn't do much convincing. All you have to do is get people to survive the night in this place, and that would be enough to convince 90% of most people. Guns not working on the monsters seems pretty obvious, because they might not have many rounds, but if they worked, I mean, picking off a few at a time will make people at least feel a little safer. The story and the monsters do give off a fairy tale vibe, so I predict that these things can be killed by salt, iron, silver, maybe fire, and obviously the sun. Sarah being a crazy bitch is a nice touch and is one of the logical problems that the town people would have within their own people, and her killing one of the new arrivals was a nice shock, but her leaving the door open for one of the nurses and the old Asian dad to get killed was a nice moment of terror. Episode 3 shows us that even though everyone in the town are on the same level of fucked, there's still a big divide in the town. People who live the more traditional kind of lifestyle of individual homes and everyone has their own space, and then there's Colony House, which is a bunch of hippie type people that cram together, share everything. And then there's that one scene where everyone's on the ground floor and everyone was like sleeping, except this one random couple is banging, and not even in a subtle way, that was pretty funny. And Jade thinking the whole thing is some elaborate escape room was also pretty funny. It was pretty predictable that when the Matthews family had to pick where to live, that the daughter was going to pick Colony House. And you can knock that part for being predictable, but it is necessary because we as the audience need fresh eyes on both parts of this place to really get a feel of what the show is about. The highlight of the episode is the box. I really liked how the sheriff set it up as a deterrent and never planned on using it, and the priest saying that he has to. Also, the sheriff offering Frank, the dad of the dead wife and daughter from episode 1, a way out, but Frank accepts the punishment, and I love seeing the monsters in monster form. Episode 4 had some nice reveals of how supernatural the town is, and with everyone all over the US coming across the same tree and ending up in the same town, even though they were hundreds of miles apart. The faraway trees are a fun idea, and Victor is probably on the same level of kooky as Sarah, but he seems to have the most vital information about this place. I mean, the guy's been there for, I'm guessing, like 30 years or something. If he spent the whole time with his thumb up his ass, he might as well go in the box. Episode 5 gives us a lot of backstory on a couple of people, which adds a nice bit of depth and reflects on how the town changed them. And since most people haven't been there very long, it makes sense that a lot of them are still hanging on to their previous lives. Other than that, not a lot else to take away from this episode. In episode 6, I was not surprised when we see Sarah tied up in the priest's church's basement. But what I really liked is that the Matthews family focusing on the electricity of the town. Most everything else can be explained away. Most everyone's supplies are what they brought with them. If people can randomly end up here, so can the animals. But there are no power lines. And what's more interesting is that everyone's power cords have no wires, and yet there is almost no issue with power. They can turn them off and on at their leisure, but the houses do have cables connecting to something. And it's nice to have characters whose curiosities are their main drives to have something to do. Not everybody farms, so I would imagine a lot of them are pretty bored for most of the day. Speaking of, the idea of getting a working radio signal sounds like a productive idea that may lead somewhere, but the more I thought about it, the less helpful the idea seemed. This place seems 100% supernatural. Everyone arriving there, despite being in a different part of the country, kind of proves that. So even if they could talk to someone, what could they tell them to have them be helpful in getting them out? Drive a bulldozer and when you see a tree in the road, just push it out of the way and that breaks the spell? No, I predict, and if I was in this place, the best way to get out would be from within. But if I was in this show, I may not be one of the good guys. Episode 7. Oh, episode 7. The monster getting into the colony house was a great way to shake things up, but I definitely prefer less of the monsters instead of more, but it was weird that one of them was cleaning herself up after killing that guy. Also, in a house where everyone seems to fuck freely, it's weird that one guy would be enticed through a romantic way. It was a little sad when the clothes thief girl got killed, and really sad when the priest died, but if the show keeps up this pace, we're gonna run out of characters to care about when they die. Episode 8 was great because we get the backstory of when the sheriff arrived and how utterly terrifying things were before he got there. The people hiding in holes and just praying that they wouldn't be found was a great scene, and it really shows how hopeless everyone was before he got there. Which begs the question of, why are the people divided in half? I get it that not everyone's personalities blend well together, but he did so much for everyone that it's really surprising that he doesn't have the title of mayor, governor, president, or even savior of this whole place. Him having to gun down his wife was a great and legitimate backstory for him and his estranged son, and for a bit, I wasn't a big fan of Ellis. He started to seem childish, but I knew he was going to see his dad with Sarah and when he wanted to talk to him, and I thought he was going to flip out on him, but he didn't, so good on you for trusting your dad. I know we didn't get to see all the people who died in the last episode actually die, but what we were told was that 14 people died. Holy shit! There are only a few dozen people here. Those are serious numbers. Hopefully we will see how big of an impact this will have on the whole town. In episode 9, I was more interested in the sheriff and Sarah. I wanted to see what else this supernatural area had in store for us, and the wind chimes or the empty bottle cans were a nice touch, especially since some of them had notes saying 1864 in them. The radio tower is a big deal, and if it does work, and that's the key to leaving, these people have made some serious relationships and even complete lives in this place, and depending on how long you've been here could seriously affect what's waiting for you when you get back. I do want to add that the second that they were thinking about a power source for the tower, I knew they were going to use the homes somehow, which made me feel smart.
These are really cold, huh? That's why you gotta drink them fast, Terry, trust me.
At the end of the episode, I was worried that with the big light, the tent thrashing around, and the loud horn, I thought the show was biting off more than it could chew, but in episode 10, oh, it did not disappoint. I loved it all. The sheriff coming out of the tent and seeing spider webs everywhere, the lighthouse they found, the tower working only for Jim Matthews to hear a horrifying message, his wife falling into a cave where the monsters sleep, and seeing cave paintings, and finding Victor. All of it, yes, love it. The rain was very interesting because I was wondering if this place experienced seasons. Like, the people who have been here longer, have they had to deal with this place during the winter? That would be really interesting, but I'll wrap it up here. The show is great and I can't wait for season 2. Thank you for watching and stay spooky.